You wake up and the ceiling is right in front of your face, not above you, in front of you. You're stuck to the wall. Your palms are pressed flat against the plaster, and you have absolutely no idea how you got here. You peel one hand off and it makes a sound like duct tape being ripped from cardboard. You fall. The floor catches you hard. You look at your hands. They look normal. Same 5 fingers, same wrinkled palms, but something is deeply, deeply wrong. You try to stand up and your foot sticks to the floor, not slips, sticks. Like someone superglued your soul to the tile. You pull, and the tile comes with it. You're standing in your bedroom at 7 a.m., holding a piece of your own flooring. You have approximately 4 seconds to accept that your life just changed forever. Because whatever just happened to you, it's not magic. It's biology, and biology has rules. Rules that do not care about comic books. Let's start with the most obvious question. How are you sticking to walls? In the Spider-Man comics, Peter Parker gained this ability from a radioactive spider bite. In real biology, only one group of animals climbs walls the way you just did: geckos. Geckos don't use suction cups. They don't use glue. They use something far stranger. Each toe of a gecko is covered in millions of microscopic hair-like structures called setae. Each seta branches into hundreds of even smaller structures called spatulae. These spatulae are just 200 nanometers wide. That's so small that they interact with the molecules of the surface at the atomic level. This is called the van der Waals force. It's the same weak attraction that exists between any two molecules that are close enough together. Alone, each individual force is negligible, but millions of them, acting simultaneously, generate enough total adhesive force to hold a gecko's entire body weight on a vertical glass surface. A single gecko foot generates about 10 newtons of adhesive force per square centimeter. To support a 75-kilogram human on a vertical wall, you'd need roughly 70 to 80 square centimeters of perfectly clean adhesive surface on each hand. Your palms are roughly 75 square centimeters each. The math barely works. But here's the problem. Van der Waals adhesion only works on clean, dry, smooth surfaces. Dust, moisture, oil from your skin, paint texture. Any of these would destroy the adhesive force. And when you try to unstick your hand, you don't just release, you peel. The force required to break those molecular bonds concentrates at the edge of your contact area. Peel too fast, and you'd take a layer of epidermis with you. You'd climb one wall and come down bleeding from every fingertip. Then there's the webs. Every version of Spider-Man shoots webs from his wrists. Real spiders do not. Real spiders produce silk from specialized organs called spinnerets, located at the rear of their abdomen, not their arms. A spider's silk glands are essentially protein factories. The spider synthesizes liquid proteins called spidroins, stores them in a sac, and threads them through a microscopic nozzle that stretches and aligns the proteins into solid fibers. The result is a material that, by weight, is 5 times stronger than steel and more elastic than nylon. But here's what nobody mentions. Producing that silk takes an enormous amount of metabolic resources. A typical garden spider produces roughly 100 meters of silk per day. That sounds impressive until you realize the spider weighs less than a gram. A human-sized silk production system would require you to synthesize and store several liters of protein-rich fluid somewhere in your body. Your body already struggles to produce enough collagen to keep your skin intact. Now it needs to manufacture industrial-strength polymer on demand. And where would you store it? Spiders store silk liquid in specialized glands. You don't have those. If your body tried to grow them, they'd need access to raw material. Your digestive system, maybe. Which means your webs would be, biologically speaking, a modified digestive secretion. Let that sink in. Even if you could produce the silk, shooting it would require enormous pressure. Spider silk exits the spinneret at very low speed. To shoot a web line 20 meters, as Spider-Man routinely does, you'd need to accelerate a thick protein strand to roughly 15 to 20 meters per second from a tiny orifice in your wrist. The pressure required would be roughly 200 to 300 kilopascals. For comparison, a human sneeze generates about 10 kilopascals. You'd need to expel fluid from your wrist at 20 to 30 times the pressure of a sneeze. The orifice would need to be reinforced with tissue stronger than anything in the human body. Without that reinforcement, the first shot would tear your wrist open from the inside. And then there's the protein cost. Spider silk consumes roughly 40% of a spider's total protein budget. A human producing web fluid at Spider-Man's volume would need an extra 2,000 to 3,000 calories per day just for raw materials. You'd be hungry, constantly, desperately hungry. Not cool, comic book hungry. Biological, your body is cannibalizing itself hungry. Now let's talk about spider sense. In the comics, Peter Parker feels danger before it happens. A tingling at the base of his skull warns him of incoming threats. Real spiders don't have a sixth sense. They have an overdeveloped first five. Spiders detect the world primarily through vibration. Tiny hairs on their legs, called trichobothria, can detect air movements as small as a fraction of a nanometer. They can feel the wing beat of a fly from several centimeters away. They can sense the footsteps of a predator through the ground before they can see it. If a human suddenly gained this level of somatic sensitivity, the result wouldn't be superpowers. It would be a neurological catastrophe. Your nervous system already processes roughly 11 million bits of sensory information per second. Your brain consciously handles only about 50 bits of that. The rest is filtered out because your brain literally cannot process more. If every hair on your body suddenly became as sensitive as a spider's trichobothria, you'd feel every single air current in the room, every vibration from the floor, every heartbeat of every person near you. The shirt on your back would feel like sandpaper. A gentle breeze would feel like a pressure wave. Your brain, unable to filter this flood, would do the only thing it could: shut down. You wouldn't get a convenient tingling warning about danger. You'd get a migraine so severe it would drop you to your knees. And then you'd get another one, and another, until your nervous system either adapted, which would take years, or simply overloaded. And then there's the strength. Spider-Man can lift roughly 10 tons, that's 20,000 pounds. He catches falling cars, holds up collapsing buildings, punches through concrete. Here's the problem: the square cube law. It's one of the most fundamental principles in biology. When you increase the size of an organism, its surface area increases by the square of the scaling factor, but its volume, and therefore its mass, increases by the cube. Double an animal's height, and its surface area quadruples, but its weight increases eightfold. This is why an elephant can't jump. It's why a mouse can fall from any height and walk away, but a horse breaks its legs from a moderate fall. A spider can lift roughly 50 times its own body weight. That's genuinely impressive. But a spider weighs less than a gram. Its muscles pull against an exoskeleton, a fundamentally different system than your endoskeleton. Spider muscles are attached to a rigid external shell. Your muscles pull against internal bones. The force a muscle can generate is proportional to its cross-sectional area. So if you scaled up a spider's muscle-to-body weight ratio, the muscle would be strong enough, but the bones, tendons, and joints those muscles attach to would not survive the forces. Your tendons would snap, your joints would dislocate, your bones would fracture under the tension of their own contracted muscles. Spider-Man doesn't just need super strong muscles, he needs super strong everything else too. The connective tissue, the ligaments, the cartilage, the bone density. Without all of those upgrading simultaneously, the first time you tried to lift a car, you wouldn't lift the car. You'd tear your own arms out of their sockets. And then there's web swinging. Spider-Man swings through New York City at speeds between 50 and 80 miles per hour. He attaches webs to buildings and swings in parabolic arcs between them. The physics of a pendulum swing are straightforward. At the bottom of the swing, the centripetal force is at its maximum. For a 75-kilogram person swinging at 25 meters per second on a 15-meter web line, the centripetal force would be roughly 3,100 newtons. That's about 4.2 times your body weight in G-force, applied every single swing. Fighter jet pilots experience 4 to 5 Gs, and they're wearing anti-G suits with specialized training. You'd experience those forces in a t-shirt with no preparation and no support. Each swing would concentrate that force on your hands and your shoulders. Your rotator cuffs, already the weakest point in the human shoulder, would tear on the first swing. Your wrists would fracture from the deceleration of catching your weight on a web line. And when you let go and flew through the air, the sudden G-force change would cause your inner ear to malfunction. You'd be dizzy, disoriented, and nauseous before you completed your first block. Then you'd land. Spider-Man lands from 50-foot drops without injury. A human landing from that height would experience an impact force of roughly 30 to 40 times their body weight. Your knees are designed to absorb about 2 to 3 times your body weight during a jump. At 30 to 40 times, your patellar tendons would rupture, your femoral condyles would fracture, your tibial plateau would collapse, you'd land once, and then you'd never walk again. This isn't speculation. We've seen what happens when the human body is pushed beyond its structural limits. High-performance gymnasts experience stress fractures in their vertebrae from repeated high-impact landings. Powerlifters tear biceps tendons during deadlifts. Rock climbers suffer pulley injuries in their fingers from supporting their body weight on tiny holds. Now imagine all of those stresses happening simultaneously at 10 times the intensity, with no training and no gradual adaptation. That's what being Spider-Man would actually feel like, and the origin story itself doesn't hold up. A radioactive spider bite wouldn't transfer spider abilities to a human. It wouldn't rewrite your DNA. It wouldn't give you anything except a painful welt and possibly an allergic reaction. Spider venom is neurotoxic. It works by disrupting nerve signal transmission, causing paralysis, muscle spasms, and in severe cases, respiratory failure. A bite from a radioactive spider would likely be more toxic than a normal bite. Radiation damage to the spider's venom glands would make the venom composition more unstable. You wouldn't wake up with powers. You'd wake up in a hospital if you woke up at all. So why do we find Spider-Man so compelling? Because he represents something humans have always wanted: to move effortlessly through the world, to never fall, to stick to any surface, to swing between buildings, to sense danger before it arrives. But evolution didn't give us those abilities for a reason. Humans are terrestrial. We evolved for flat ground, moderate speeds, and social cooperation. We survived not by climbing walls, but by walking around them. Not by swinging between buildings, but by building them. Our lack of spider abilities isn't a deficiency, it's a specialization. Every biological feature is a trade-off. The gecko's sticky feet make it an incredible climber, but they make it a terrible runner. The spider's silk production makes it a master builder, but it makes it metabolically expensive to maintain. If humans could climb walls, we'd sacrifice something else. Grip strength, perhaps. Fine motor control. The ability to hold tools. The very hands that built civilization would become specialized climbing instruments. And here's the thing nobody considers. If you actually woke up as Spider-Man, you couldn't shake anyone's hand without crushing their fingers. You couldn't type on a keyboard without shattering the keys. You couldn't pet a dog without hurting it. You'd be the most isolated person on Earth, surrounded by a world made of cardboard and tissue paper. Spider-Man isn't a fantasy of power. He's a fantasy of a world that doesn't break when you touch it. You, on the other hand, can open a door without ripping the handle off. You can hold someone's hand without fear. And in a world obsessed with being extraordinary, that might be the most remarkable ability of all.